Zion Hay. The person who thins the vines, just as he thins his, he may thin of the poor. So says Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Meir says his own he may, but that of the poor he may not. And we hold by Rabbi Yehuda. A vineyard in its fourth year, Beit Shammai says it has no chomesh and it has no removal. And Beit Hillel says it has. Beit Shammai says it has peret and it has olet, and the poor redeem for themselves. And Beit Hillel says all of it is for the vat. A vineyard that is an olet. That's right, olet. No, that's wrong, right? Am I wrong?
That is entirely olelos, yes.
Olelot. I don't know. A vineyard that is oleot. Rabbi Eliezer says to the owner, Rabbi Hiva says to the poor. Rabbi Eliezer says, when you harvest the grapes, you should not glean it. That's a pasuk in Devarim. If there is no harvest, from where are they olelet? Rabbi Akiva said to him, and you shall not glean your vineyard, even if it is an oleat, all oleat. So if so, why is it said, when you harvest grapes, you shall not glean it? The poor do not oleat before the harvest. Okay.
Okay.
With the grapes.
Fine. Mishna Ches Hamakdish Karmo Shelo Nodu Bo Ha'olelos. So somebody decides that he's overcome by a feeling of generosity towards Hashem and gratitude, and he decides that he wants to sanctify his entire vineyard. That's all very well, but the Aniyim also have a chelek in that vineyard. So if he is makdish it before the grapes have developed to the point where you can tell what's going to be olelos and what's not, okay, then when they finally do develop and it turns out that they are olelos, it all belongs to hekdesh. However, if the olelos have already appeared on the clusters they're not such clusters. That's the point. Once they've appeared, he's allowed to be makdish the rest of his vine, but he's not allowed to be makdish what doesn't belong to him. Rabbi Yossi Omer Yitnu Schar Gidulan lehekdesh. However, says Rabbi Yossi, the aniyim themselves, when they come and take the olelos, they have to give a certain amount of money to the gizbar of the mikdash, which is because they were attached to a vine that had been sanctified. So they got some benefit from the sanctified vine because that was what connected to them to the ground. Okay, and the Tanna Kama disagrees and says that they don't need to give any schar gidulin because the kerem was already chayav in olelos, and therefore it was that implicitly includes the nourishment of the grapes themselves. However, Kahati says the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi. Okay, Eizohi shicha be'aris. Now, what's the definition of shicha when you're reaping a trellised vine? Okay, kol she'enu yachol lifshot es yado v'litla. Anytime that the worker is working his way down the vine, and he looks back and he says, "Oh, there was a cluster over there," and can he reach back with his other hand, in the direction from which he came? Can he still reach it without moving his feet? If he can, then it's not shicha. But if he's gone beyond it, then he's not allowed to return. Okay, over roglios. Now, what happens if the grapevine is not trained on a trellis? That's the roglios, the ones that are on the feet. Misha yavor heimena. That's so when he's passed by it, that's it. He would have to bend down in any case to reach it. So if his feet have gone past that point, then it's now considered shecha. Okay. All right, Perikhes. So when are all people permitted to have leket? Now, the leket, of course, those are the things that fell during the harvest, and now the aniyim have got first dibs on that. But if the aniyim have gone through and they left some behind, there comes a point where it becomes mutar even for ashirim to pick up something if they feel like it. Okay, mishi yelchu hanemoshos. So from the point where the nemoshos have gone through the vineyard, or the field, it could be a field as well. Okay, so what's the nemoshos? That's the old people.
The elderly, handicapped.
They walk on a cane,
right.
and they collect very slowly by each little piece of each ear of corn or whatever, and they're called Nemoshos al Shem She Mimashmashim V'Holchim, because they really check every last bit carefully. Okay, and since they're the last ones who go through the field, once they've gone, then it's free for all. Okay. But Peret over Olelos, what about Peret and Olelos? Those are, so Peret is the grapevine equivalent of what's it called, Leket, and Olelos is those are the weak clusters, that aren't really clusters, which belong to the Aniyim as well. So again, Mishiyelchu Aniyim Bekerim V'Yavo. Once the Aniyim have gone through the vineyard and returned. Now, why is it different? I'm not sure why we don't have the din of Namoshas by a vineyard. But once the Aniyim have gone through the vineyard and come back, then we say, okay, they've done their thing, and now it's free for all. V'zeisim, what about olives? Mishiteret Revi'ah Shnia. This time for the olives, it's after the second rainfalls.
Then they can come back. Then they come back, right?
Right. So once the once the second rainfalls have come down, then that's presumed to be the end of the Aniyim. The Aniyim will have been through the olives now, and it's done. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, what about people who only start the harvest after the second rainfall? Rather, he says that the criterion is that any ani who comes into the orchard, the olive orchard, and only comes out with 4 isaros worth of olives. So at that point, it's not kedai for the aniyim even to go in. It's a very small yield. So therefore, it's now free for all for anyone else who walks into the orchard to take. Okay. However, the halacha doesn't follow Rabbi Yehuda. It follows the Tanna Kama, who says that it's from the time of year, from after the second rainfalls. And I guess they knew more about the agricultural cycle than we do.
Yeah.
Okay, I would have been sympathetic to Rabbi Yehuda's view for this. Anyways, Mishna base Nemanim al haleket.
Rabbi Yehuda says, the second one, but he has dates. The Kati says, he says on the 7th, on the 23rd, 7th, the 17th, the 23rd. Why do they pick those days? Is there a reason that we said that they picked those days?
So those are the dates of the Revi'ah Shnia. Now I think we have that in Tainus. Is that right? We have the dates of the Revi'ah Bechira, known as Revi'ah Afela. Right, yes, that's right. We learned in Tainus about what's the Zman of the Revi'ah. So that gives a date. So of course there's a machlokes about exactly what is the date of the Revi'ah Shnia. Right. So if you're going according to Rabbi Yehuda, then you would look at then you'd say, okay, after this date, then it's free for all, and the Aniyim have done their thing.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Mishna base nemanim ala leket. Okay, so now we've learned this before. So the concept of demai. Now remember, we don't trust Amei Haaretz in a lot of respects. When an Am Haaretz comes and tells us I've taken truma, we believe him. When he comes and says I've taken maser and trumas maser, we don't believe him. Right. Okay. So now we have an issue when, let's say, an ani who's an Am Haaretz wants to sell us produce. And you ask him, what's this produce? And he says, oh, this produce is from Peah. So then you think, oh, Peah is exempt from Trumas and Mastros. So that's great. I don't have to take anything off it. Now, you wouldn't have believed him if he'd said, no, it's from regular produce, but I've taken Trumas and Mastros from it. It's all okay. You wouldn't have believed him. But when he says it's from Peah, The Mishnah tells us over here, we believe them. If they say that this is from leket, from shikha, from peah, then we say, okay, we believe him, and we don't have to take trumas and masters from it. B'sha'atan, but that's at the time of year when it's agriculturally appropriate to say, it's plausible to say, okay, this came from the recent harvest. But al maser ani b'chol shanaso, and if he says it comes from maser ani, you can believe him the whole year of maser ani. Right, so you don't, which means that again you don't have to take any trumas or masters from it. Ben Levi ne'eman leolam. A Levi is always believed to say that what he got is maser rishon, even if he's an Amaretz, right? That's maser rishon, and he's also believed that he took from it trumas maser, because maser rishon applies every year. And just like Yisraelim are not nechshad on Truma Gedola, also Ben Levi is not suspected of withholding the Trumas Maser.
Are we talking when we say that we trust them if they mention Peah? Look at is because normally they wouldn't say that. That's the reason why they. I mean, it sounds like they know what they're talking about. Then
it's possible, yeah. Why do we trust them and we don't trust them about Maser and Trumas Maser? You look at the whole thing of Demai was a gezerah. It was a gezerah because people weren't sure who they could and couldn't trust, and it was awkward. Okay, but when it comes to the matanas la'aniyim, first of all, it's obviously not as common as the rest of the produce. So it's a lot less common. The aniyim, I guess, will typically be eating their own produce. But if he decides to sell it or give it to you, and he tells you that this is Maser Ani, and you know that this is the year of Maser Ani, then okay, that's enough of an uncommon case that Chazal didn't see a need to be gozer on that, and we believe them on it. I guess I don't see. I haven't seen an explanation as to why we do believe him on this and not on the other things. However, we only believe them on things that are normal behavior, as we will see in the coming Mishnayos as to what is considered normal behavior. So when somebody tells you that he got Maser Ani, and we look at the produce and think that's not normal to give as Maser Ani, but we'll save that for tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Chazara on Hay Gimel.
One may not roll with a tofeah. So says Reb Meir, and the sages permit, but of course it is possible. If a householder was traveling from one place to another and was in need of taking lechet, shecha, or a peah and maser ani, he may take, and when he returns, he must pay. So says Reb Eliezer. But the Chachamim say he was a poor man at that time.
Right. So there's no need for him to settle any debts.
If a person exchanges with the poor, that of his is exempt, and that of the poor is liable. If two received a field for sharecropping, this one gives the other his share of maser ani, and this one gives the other his share of maser ani. If a person receives a field to reap, he must not take lechet, shikacha, peah, or maser ani. Rabbi Yehuda says when he received from him for a half, a third, or a quarter, and if he said to him 1/3 of what you reap is yours, he is permitted to take lechet, shikacha, peah, but not maser ani.
Okay. Brachas, Aleph Gimel.
Okay. Beit Shammai says, in the evening everyone must recline and read, and in the morning he must stand erect, since it is said in the pasuk, when you lie down and when you rise up. Beit Hillel says everyone may read it as suits him, since it says, and when you walk by the way. If so, why does it state, and when you lie down and when you rise up? The time when people lie down and the time when people are up. Reb Tarfon said, I was once on the road and I reclined to read in conformity with Beit Shammai, and I endangered my life because of robbers. They said to him, you deserve to forfeit your life since you did not act in accordance with the words of Beis Hillel. In the morning, one recites two brachas before it and one after it, and in the evening, two before it and two after it, one long and one short. Wherever they lie down a long formula, one is not permitted to shorten, and a short formula, one is not permitted to lengthen. To recite an end formula, one is forbidden not to recite the end formula. Where not to recite an end formula, one is not permitted to recite an end formula. The Exodus is mentioned at night. Reb Eliezer ben Azariah said, "Behold, I am like a man of 70, and I was not merited that the Exodus be mentioned at night until Ben Zoma gave this exposition. He said that you may remember the day when you came forth out of Egypt, all the days of your life. The days of your life refer to the daytime. All the days of your life include the nighttime as well. Well, the Chachamim say the days of your life refer to this world. All the days of your life include the Masonic era as well."
Right.
Okay, as soon as I read that, I'm getting ready to clean.
Yeah, I hear that.
I think
Okay.
it's about 8 weeks away or something like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
we just had two Bishvat sets. Yeah, that's right. We're
Don't tell your wife. Don't say anything.
she told me last night.
She told you later. Was that a warning?
Yeah.
Right. Some substances complete a mikveh and do not qualify it. Some substances complete a mikveh and do not disqualify it. Some disqualify a mikveh and do not complete it. Some neither complete nor disqualify. The following complete a mikveh and do not disqualify it: snow, hail, sleet. Wrong way. Ice, salt, and liquid mud. Rabbi Kiva says, Rabbi Yishmael argued with me, saying, snow cannot complete a mikveh, but the townspeople of Medeva testified in Rabbi Yishmael's name that he had said that to him. Go and bring snow and make a mikveh from the beginning. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says, hailstones are like water. How so do they complete a mikveh but not disqualify it? If a mikveh contains 40 or less one, and a star of these substances falls into it, it completes it. Thus they complete and do not disqualify.
Right. So that's an amazing thing is that you have an empty mikveh, and it's snowing outside. You can go out and get wheelbarrows full of snow and dump them in the mikveh until you've got 40 sa'ah when it melts, and that's a perfectly good mikveh.
That'll be awful cold too. The following substances disqualify a mikveh and do not complete it: water, whether tummy or tahor, water in which fruits or vegetables have been soaked, or water in which they have been cooked, and mark that has not been fermented. How do they disqualify a mikveh and not complete it? If a mikveh contains 40 or less, one kortov, and a kortov of these substances falls into it, it does not complete it. They disqualify it with 3 lugim. But other defined liquids, fruit juice, fish juice, fish sauce, and mark that has fermented sometimes complete a mikveh and sometimes do not complete it. How so? If a mikveh contains 40 or less one, and a saw of these substances falls into it, it does not complete it. If it contains 40 saw and he put into a saw of these substances, and then he removed the saw, it remains valid. If one rinsed in a mikveh olive baskets or grape baskets and they change its color, it remains valid. Reb Yossi says dye water disqualifies the mikveh when there is 3 lugim, but does not disqualify it by change of color. If wine or olive sap fell into it, the mikveh and they change its color, it is valid. What should one do? He should wait until rain falls and the color returns to the color of water. If it contains 40 saw, he can draw water, carry it on his shoulders, and place it into the mikveh until the color returns to the water.
Okay. Now I want to just go back to base because something just bothered me a second ago. We said about the fruit juices and things like that when it's male and sometimes it's male, sometimes it's not. So we say when is it male? We said if you have a mikveh that had 40 sa in it, and he put a sa of any of these liquids in and then took out a sa, that's kosher. But that's the same din when it comes to mayim she'uvin. Because if you poured mayim she'uvin into the mikveh, then so now it's 41 sa'ah, and then you take out a sa'ah, then it's still kosher. So I'm not sure why that is different.
Well, if it contains 40 saw and you put in a saw of these substances and then remove the saw, it remains valid.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you just said, though? It's the
Yeah,
same.
exactly. But I'm saying that's the poslin ketzat poslin below malin Um, so let's just see with the things that are posted in Loma in Mikvashish, but Abram said, Kasakota, nothing in the court of the Toko. Lo Elahu, Poslo, Logit, Abal Shamashkin, make Peros, Login. Yeah. Um, perhaps they don't count it as and Malin because it's because if the mikveh has 40 sa'ah and you add ma'im shovit into it, then it actually converts into kosher water, and um, that's different about water as opposed to fruit juice. Fruit juice doesn't ever become water. It just gets and that's more of a chiddush, I suppose, by let's say fruit juice falls into the mikveh 40 sa'ah. So in one sa'ah, and swaps one sa'ah of that one for one sa'ah of the rest of the water, it actually remains kosher, and that's the interesting part. Okay, fine. Let's go to Kalim.
Let me just okay. So once the water changes colors, it's not valid.
That's right.
That's what
we see. Yeah.
Okay. Gimel Ches. A barrel that developed a hole and one repaired it with more pitch than necessary, that which touches the necessary pitch is tameh, while that which touches the unnecessary pitch is tahor. Pitch that dripped onto a barrel, that which touches it is tahor. A wooden or earthenware funnel that was plugged with pitch, Reb Elazar ben Nazariah rules them tameh, and Reb Akiva rules the wooden funnel tameh, but rules the earthenware funnel tahor. Reb Yossi rules both of them tahor. An earthenware fragment that cannot stand because of its handle or has a protrusion or a protrusion tilts it is tahor. If the handle was removed or the protrusion broke off, it is still tahor. And Reb Yehuda rules it tameh. A barrel whose bottom fell out but is able to contain on its walls or it split and became like two troughs, Reb Yehuda says it tahor, but the common rule of tameh. A barrel that is fractured and cannot be transported with a half a cup of dried figs is tahor. A gestera that is fractured and cannot contain liquids, although it contains solid foods, is tahor since there are no remnants for remnants. Which is
that's it. That's it. Baba Basra Gimel Hey.
By the way, have you seen Riley?
Not recently. No.
Oh, I hope everything's okay.
Mm.
Okay, Gimel Hey. These are circumstances for which there is no chazaka, and these are circumstances for which there is no chazaka. If he kept an animal in the courtyard, or an oven, a stove, or a mill, or he raised chickens, or he placed his manure in the courtyard, it is not a chazaka. However, if he made a partition 10 handbreadths high for his animal, or he did so for the oven, stove, or mill, or he placed chickens in the house, and he made a storage place for manure 3 handbreadths high or 3 handbreadths deep, this is a chazaka.
Right, so this is where he's got a shared courtyard, and then he wants to come and claim that he bought it from his neighbor, and the fact that his neighbor never protested it shows that this is that he's got a chazaka.
It was interesting in the Sevilla share yesterday. Rabbi Lubin was talking about the manure, collecting manure, and then they were going to use it, and it has a whole thing about Maris iron. It says that if they put too much out in big piles or something, that people think they're going to start, fertilizing and getting ready for planting during Sfias. So it's interesting that what do I think manure would come into this whole, thing? It's amazing. I wondered how many things I did wrong in my first Shemitah. A drain sprout has no kazaka, but its place has a kazaka. A gota has a kazaka. An Egyptian ladder has no kazaka, but a Triarian ladder has a kazaka. An Egyptian window has no kazaka, but a Triarian window has a kazaka. What is an Egyptian window? Any window through which a man's head cannot enter. Reb Yehuda says if it has a frame, even though a man's head cannot enter it, it establishes a chazaka. A protrusion down to the handbreadth, it has a kazaka, and one can protest its placement, but if it has less than a handbreadth, it has no kazaka, and one cannot protest its placement. One may not open his window onto a jointly owned courtyard, but if he buys a house in another courtyard, he may not open it onto a jointly owned courtyard. If he builds an attic above his house, he may not open it onto a jointly owned courtyard. However, if he wishes, he may build a room within his house or build an attic above his house and open it into his house. A man may not open into a jointly owned courtyard a doorway opposite another doorway or a window opposite another window. If it was small, he may not enlarge it. If there was one, he may not make it two. However, he may open unto the public domain a doorway opposite another doorway and a window opposite another window. If it was small, he may enlarge it, and if it was one, he may make it two. What is the actual?
That's it. That's it.
What's the actual reasons that you can't build a doorway and cross another doorway or window, or
For Hezekiah, that you're looking into somebody else's property.
That's what I thought.
Looking into somebody else's property is considered a nezek.
Yeah, I remember Rabbi Haber one time was talking about if you're walking in the street, you shouldn't be looking in someone's house.
Correct. Yes. Correct.
And I always end up looking up because I want to see, oh, how nicely that's decorated, and how this is,
Yeah. Okay. Shkalim.
Okay.
Salam.
Tes Aleph. A spittle that is found in Yerushalayim is assumed to be tahor, except for that found in the upper market. These are the words of Rav Meir. Rav Yossi says at other times of the year, whatever spittle is in the middle of the street is assumed to be tameh, and whatever is on the sides is tahor. But at the time of the pilgrimage festival, whatever spittle is in the middle of the street is assumed to be tahor. Whatever is at the sides is tameh, because since they're a minority, they withdraw to the sides.
So here we have the situation of the tahor and the tameh people kind of know to avoid each other, but during the rest of the year, the tameh people, the middle of the road is kind of a hefker place, and if you want to stay tahor, you stay to the edges where fewer people are. But when it's the time of the regel, and the tameh people know that there are lots of tahor people around, then they themselves stick to the side in order not to be matameh the people who come into the mikdash.
All the utensils that are found in Yerushalayim on the path leading down to the mikvah are assumed to be tameh, but those found on the path leading up from the mikvah are assumed to be tahor. For the path of the descent is not the path of the ascent. These are the words of Rav Meir. Rav Yossi says all are assumed to be tahor except for the basket, the shovel, the spade, and that are reserved for grave sites. I think the halakha is Rav Yossi.
Usually, yes, it is.
A knife which was found on the 14th of Nisan may be used immediately for slaughter, but if it was found on the 13th of Nisan, it must immerse again. And a meat cleaver, whether found on the 13th or the 14th, he must immerse again, unless the 14th fell on Shabbos, in which case he may slaughter with it immediately. But if it was found on the 15th, he may slaughter with it immediately. And if it was found tied to a knife, then it's considered as the knife. If a curtain has been
That's it. We're done.
Really?
We are.
Oh, well. Okay.
Oh, disappointed.
What do you do, by the way, Pesach with your cat? What do you are there special cat food, Pesach?
Yeah, you get chametz-free cat food.
They'd have it. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I do that for the fish, so
Yeah.
they like that food better than the regular fish food. So
Yeah, the worms.
yeah, the worms, they love them. Have a great day.
You
Enjoy.
too.
See you
Have a lovely
tomorrow.
day.
Thank you. Bye.